of the U.S. election that we're still expecting results, and also after the police brutality, the EndSars protest, we're talking about policemen not hidden. Would I say the order of the Inspector General of Police? Now, what exactly has been happening in the polity now? I'm not alone to look at all these topics and many other. I have my colleague here with me. You just want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, Wilson Omoni. Look, Yashirama, there are quite a lot of issues to unfold from the topics that we have today. I think most important has to be the police brutality issue in Nigeria and the IGP's reactionary actions to what has actually transpired. Many would say it has come a bit late, that is having to go around the nation now, galvanizing the troops to actually go back on the streets. So we'll be looking at all of the issues that surround that, and also we cannot forget what's happening in America. And America, that used to serve as a big brother to Nigeria, is having its own election quagmire as it stands right now. So we're looking at the issues and what Nigeria must begin to learn from what America is going through right now.
So it's not peculiar to Nigeria, it's not peculiar to Africa. It's one trouble that happens to everyone.
I would recommend that the president begins to write his letter that he should submit to the U.S. Embassy.
You know what, I can tell probably the president is already doing that. Now, my name is Eshomamo Imodu, and I have in the studio with us here to look at this issue, Barrister Abubakar Yusufu. He is Chairman, League of Patriotic Lawyers, and also the former Student Union President, University of Benin. Nice to have you here, Jonas.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Now, you just heard what my colleagues talked about, the U.S. election and the matters arising. Now, what is your take before we go into other issues about this?
Well, the U.S. election is still in progress, and as a Democrat to the core, we are hoping that Biden will eventually cruise to victory, because in the first place, you know, he's really agonizing and surprising that Trump was able to win the election 4 years ago. Because in a place like Nigeria, no matter how decrepit and ill-organized, I don't think Donald Trump would have been able to win even a local government election. Here's a man that has no respect for even Pope. Yet he's using religion to divide the people.
So interesting.
And here's a man that does not respect women. Here's a man that mocks the disabled. Here's a man that has no respect for anything whatsoever. So it's really disgraceful in quote, that America, the beacon of democracy and civilization, elected a man like Trump. So it will be very gratifying if he's also thrown overboard today or maybe early tomorrow, as soon as we finish.
Now, Wilson, let me just come to you with this. Now, would you say that to the Americans, it might not be the same thing? We look at it from this part of the world and say probably he does not have that kind of popularity. But from the results you've seen so far, would you say that President Trump is not that popular amongst his people?
Look, it's a two-way street, right? And here's where we begin to understand what's going on in America. Unlike here in Nigeria, whereby you have to appease some major big wigs in the political space to get into office, it's not quite the same in America. The moment you are popular and your ideas are popular with the people, you're most likely going to get the opportunity to serve. Here in Nigeria, or even here in Africa, there are some political bigwigs that anyone with a political ambition has to go and meet, and those ones are given the approval or the financial backing to go ahead with what he has to do. In America, you don't need all of that. The people can support you financially. Yeah. So here's the difference with Nigeria, and that's one part. Now the second part is this. Yes, it is true, as a barrister has said, that he doesn't really carry the ideologies of a man that should lead a nation. But it also speaks volumes to
like America.
It also speaks volumes to also how and why that checkmate is important here in Africa, whereby some people that have always had an idea of what leadership should be are the ones that would exalt you to go into a position of leadership. Because if you cannot pass the test of those common people, no matter how big your ideas are, you would misuse the power when you get there. So it's a two-way street, as I said before. And it is very important that we are learning from what is happening in America. And we have to understand that, you know what, Godfatherism is as important as it is not important in the scape of politics as it is today. If Godfatherism wasn't important, someone should have gotten in touch with Trump as of right now to tell him, the way you are going about things, you should probably slow down, because they're going to cause a major challenge in the country.
Then are you sure? Would you say that people have not gotten in touch with him before now? Probably if he's paying the price of not listening to Is it the
That,
godfather
that's the
we'll talk
challenge,
about?
and that's where we have to really underline. Because if there were people who helped him get into the position that he got into, those people would serve as people that will hold him accountable. It's like getting into a marriage in Nigeria, right? There are some people that when you and your spouse have an issue with, you can easily take your spouse to go and meet them.
Yeah, let me quickly just douse this, prevarication. Trump won on the basis of Rickson. He played the racist cards. He told the Americans that he would make America great again. And what he actually meant by that was that he was going to make America uncomfortable for immigrants. And he tried, and this is what he's still relying on. He's trying to harass, the white supremacists, that if you allow the Democrats to come back, your neighborhood will be devastated. The police will be underfunded, and there will be crime rate and all that. So this type of fear factor.
Now you call it fear.
Yeah.
That Trump meant it to be politics.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to tell you. It's a divisive politics that he's been playing. You discover that very close to the election, he started going to church. Like, Trump is not...
It's not
a Christian, so these are divisive things. Even in Nigeria, I saw some people...
Muslims that go to church close to the election period.
True. I saw some people even campaigning for Trump and all that, There's nothing wrong. It's politics, I mean, like the philosopher would say, everybody is entitled to his ideological construct. It's either you are a Republican or a Democrat or even a free thinker politically. So Trump succeeded in playing the racist card, and America was flabbergasted by the victory of Obama. And Trump was so much in a hurry to obliterate completely the victory, the achievements of Obama. Look at his healthcare theme that favored virtually more than 70% of the Americans, essentially poor Americans. He completely wiped it out and replaced it with his very toxic tax policy, which tends to favor the very wealthy in the society. So it was the racist card that saw Trump in, and it's still the racist card that is endearing him to the people.
Will it be right to, if he's a racist card, will it be right to also say that probably most Americans are racist?
That is where I was just going. Now, he has not said something that is unique to himself. It appears that
he only helped them to amplify
he only amplified what they probably already carried in their hearts. It's not a case of he has come out to play a card that wasn't there. Yeah. The card was on the table. But Americans have always tried to pretend like it's not there.
I'll come back to you. I have other guests joining us via Zoom, talking about Barrister Fred Nziako. Barrister, it's nice to have you join us today on Strictly Politics.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
All right. Let me just push this to you immediately. Winston, I'll come back to you on this. We've been talking about American politics and I said the storm so far. Now, what exactly will you have to say about the development? I guess you never thought that this kind of a thing would play out in the United States of America.
Well, there's nothing untoward. There's nothing extraordinary about what is playing out in America because it is politics. And what is politics? Politics is a game of interests. And political democracy is a game of interest that displayed by the majority towards winning power. What is going on between the Democrats and the Republicans, aside from the other minority parties, is that they are all struggling to gain power. And Trump won 4 years ago, yes. This time around, he may win, he may not win until when the last vote is counted. But already the snipers we are getting is that he doesn't seem to be comfortable with the vote so far, because at 264 against 214 electoral college votes, Trump still has a lot of a whopping 50 electoral college votes to catch up with Joe Biden. So the odds are in favor of Biden and against Trump. And I have had a little bit of what your analysts in the studio have said about Trump. Of course, as far as I am concerned, my takeaway from what is going on in America is since Nigeria practices presidential system of government, which we borrowed from America, it's called the American system we need to really understudy the dynamics in that political environment and see what we can get out of it towards our own deepening our own democratic experience. That is what should concern all Nigerians. Then the next thing that will concern all Nigerians is that there are Nigerians who are resident in America that the one we call Nigerian Americans. A lot of them have become citizens. A lot of them are immigrants. A lot of them have interest in ensuring that their interest is protected. And a lot of them feel that the Trump's immigration policies in the past 4 years have not been very positive towards Africans and other non-core Americans. But whatever it is, one thing your analyst said, which I agree with them, is that the racist system in America is not spoken in the public, but is spoken in the private. Every core American has one thing or the other against an African or a Spaniard or a Hispanic. And those who live in America, who are Nigerian Americans, will tell you that racism is still very strong in the minds of an average American person. Yes, Trump tried to play on it 4 years ago.
I'll come back to you, but I just want to pose this to my colleague in here. Now, he just said that racism is one thing that it's common to a lot of Americans. And if we look at them as racist, let's come back home to Nigeria. We might not call us racism, but how comfortable are we when you find probably somebody from the Southwest wanting to play politics in the Southeast? Is he acceptable? When you find somebody from the Southeast trying to play politics in the North, is he acceptable? So don't you think that we have all this similarity?
Yeah, we do. We do have similarities. And it is sad to say that I'm not sure if it was the current Nasir El-Rufai's report to the president where they were asking for non-indigens to be able to contest in political offices in states. And many who were gathered there said, no, if you're not from a state, you shouldn't contest in any political office. Imagine if someone was actually coming from outside Nigeria to contest in an election in Nigeria. What would be the outrage?
Why not talk about those in Nigeria?
Just imagine the outrage. No, even within us, we're having issues. Now imagine that someone else from another country is leading us here in Nigeria in any position. And we are seeing Nigerians of descent here in Nigeria, or maybe those who even moved there, or whose parents were, gave them to that, and they can actually win seats in that country. That's a lesson that we must take from America.
A huge lesson for us to learn. Not talking about racism, but also talking about this particular lesson for us. Now, we're talking about rebuilding Nigeria. We just came out from the EndSars. That's mainly talking about how to birth a new Nigeria. Now, don't you think we should begin to look at this new development where I should be able to go beyond my own state in Edo, go to another state and hold elective position? Should there be that limitation? And how do we overcome these hurdles that our fathers placed on us in moving out of our own environment?
It's quite pathetic. It's sad. It's very regrettable that even in Nigeria we have this limitation. That is why it's going to be extremely difficult for maybe somebody from the Southwest to go to the North and aspire to be a governor or a senator. But even, I must be very frank with you, that it's only in the Southwest that you still have this cosmopolitan outlook.
And to some extent in the North.
Yes.
We've had of councillors in the North, we've had of special advisors in the North that are from outside.
If you take Lagos as a case study, you discover that we have some commissioners who are from the East, who are not even from the Yoruba-speaking area and all that. So we must give that to them. They're trying to build a cosmopolitan, outlook towards things. But nationally, we have this drawback, whereas, you have people from a particular ethnic group dominating government and governance. That will not augur well for development, or it has not augur well for development. We run a federal system, and our federal system means that, we are diverse. But in reality or in practice, it is actually unitary. Everything comes from Abuja, and what we have is this feed-the-bottle philosophy or feed-the-bottle economic approach to politics, to economics, to social cultural linings and all that. So this should be discouraged. And let me use this platform to also appeal to Mr. President Buhari that he should try and reflect this federal outlook in his orientation, in his decisions, and even in his cabinet.
Okay. Now, Barrister Isaac, I'll come to you now. Now, we're talking about speaking to the president to reflect it in his appointment and in other national positions. Yeah. But to the man on the street, what does it matter to him if somebody is from probably the southwest or north or east? Yeah. Does it really matter? I think what matters to the man that on the street is, at the end of the day, to be able to have food on his table, yeah, to be able to buy clothes, yeah, to be able to live in a house and take care of his family. Yeah. Now, what I'm saying in essence is, if we need to check and address this issue, even people that are from a particular political zone, when they held public offices, we never saw that the people that own zone benefited from it. So does it really matter where anybody is from for us to rebuild Nigeria and move Nigeria forward? Barrister.
Yes, it does matter. It matters a lot because when you consider man's hierarchy of needs, as propounded by Maslow philosophically, when a man overcomes the natural needs, the next need is socio-cultural needs. And then if a man is no longer hungry, he has food to eat, he has clothes to put on, he has a house to sleep in, the next thing will be his social need, which goes to his ego, his recognition as a human being, the inclusiveness and the way the society perceives or sees him. So it matters a lot. And that is why Nigeria Constitution has made copious provision in the federal principle system, where it is expected that no tribe or ethnic group will lord it over another tribe or ethnic group, because what is good for the goose is also good for the gander. I want to join my friend and brother in that studio who pleaded with Mr. President to reflect our diversity in his actions, in his policies, in his appointments, in his utterances and his responses to political and policy issues. And that is why so many people have been crying aloud that one of the major challenges we have today is that of nepotism, where it's only the people from Mr. President's geopolitical zone that are considered as a reasonable and for certain appointment, which should not be because of the diversity we have in our country. So it is important. Yes, while we are talking about good governance, we are also talking about inclusiveness, because if you exclude anybody, even if you put food on his table, the food will, after eating the food, what next? He wants to be seen as a human being. He wants to be seen as being part of the system. He wants to be seen as being considered in appointment in other constitutions, in siting and location of industries, infrastructure, and the rest of them, and in everything that you can call government presence. That is very important. And if you take it away, that means you are undermining our unity in diversity, and you are creating a very huge crack against the unity and progress of the country. So what we want to take away from what is going on is that Nigeria must ensure that we take away this problem of ethnicity and the state of origin. My brothers are saying in the studio that it is unfortunate that a man from the southeast cannot contest election in the northeast and be given the due consideration, even when he has lived there all his years for 50 years accounting. Even when his fathers and forefathers lived there, as long as he's traced to southeast or southwest, he cannot run in the north, and vice versa. So, but the major thing we need to do as a policy is to ensure that we no longer emphasize state of origin. Instead, we should begin to emphasize state of residence. Until we begin to do that, two things are important in statutory forms in Nigeria. Take away state of origin. Take away tribe. When I pick form and I see tribe or religion, it aches my mind. Or when I see state of origin, it aches my mind. Take away from, at least, let's start from there, statutory forms, tribe, state of origin, and the religion. And so that gradually a country evolves. And before you know it, Nobody is asking you anymore where you come from. Instead, where do you reside become the issue. Because it is where you reside that you pay your tax. It is where you reside that you try to contribute your quota towards the growth of the nation. Yeah. And it is not only about state of origin.
Thank you, Barrister.
Let me quickly just add this, if you don't mind, to what my learned friend had just said. Okay. We look forward to a position or a time when the true Nigerian president will emerge. The true Nigerian president.
When you say true Nigerian president,
I say true, yeah. Where the Nigerian president will not see his presidency from the spectacles of this state voted for me, that state did not vote for me. If you listen carefully to Biden's first speech to Americans, he said, I will be the president of everybody, those who voted for me and those who did not vote for me. So it's not a question of saying 5% voted for me and maybe what the attention will 5% as some countries would urge us. So let us look for a president that will forget about his affiliation to a political party and look towards creating a platform where things like tribe, things like religion, things like geopolitical zone will form no point of reference. Okay. And conversely, when Trump was coming to address the people, he was very bullish. He was saying that indeed he threatened to even declare himself winner and all that. And everybody agreed, even the Republicans that are decidedly conservative, that was very unpresidential. So that shows you the difference between a statesman and lack of it.
You add to it, but let me ask you this question so that answering it, you can also state the fact you have in there. Now, some presidents have also said that it's so easy for our leaders to play the elitist politics that tend to divide us. And they come about the argument of the zoning arrangements. Yeah. And what they have at the back of their mind is for us to find a way to divide ourselves. They come out with the aspect of rotational leadership. They come out also with the president must be from the north, the vice from the south, or this one from the south and the vice from the north. These are all terms used by the elites to cause division amongst us and divide us. And do you agree with that notion?
Well, you see, and if we're going to be using that in comparison with what's going on in America, America doesn't have the language barrier that we have here. There's a common language, which is English. You're not going to go to a different part of America where you won't be able to communicate with an average person with an English language. And that is why you would find that there's a divide that comes in terms of who we want to be elected into office. So we cannot really compare ourselves with the United States in that perspective. But yes, you are correct that the elites have used this to actually divide the people. But you also have to say that it is important for us to maintain that so that some tribes do not feel left out in the scheme of things. Because as we have alluded to here, when a president comes in, it appears, well, I won't say when a president comes in because it's only appearing to be that in recent times, recent presidencies that we have. During Obasanjo's era, you could call to one or two people who were from different parts of the country who were serving under him as ministers and what have you. Also the same set of Jonathan and Yar'Adua. But it is important that you have this rotation so that no part of the country does not feel left out from the scheme of things as it is today. Now let's get back to the points that learned respondents were talking about earlier, which is the position of divisiveness within the people. It's not unique to America. And we can even say that, it's not unique to Nigeria, what I mean to say, that there are strongholds in a particular place for a particular president or a governor. There's always going to be that. Even in America today, there are places where Trump knows that there are strong Republicans, and there are places where they know that there are strong Democrats. These are traditional places where Democrats always seems to win, and there are places where Republicans always seem to win. So it's not unique that we have that here in Nigeria, where there is a place where a PDP or APC or NNDP is very strong.
Okay. Thank you so much, Wilson. Now let's quickly go to another issue I'd like us to just take a look at, the EndSars protest and the aftermath of that. We've been talking about police brutality. We have a lot of judicial panel coming up. Now, what exactly, you're a lawyer, my other guest also is a lawyer. So let's have your take on the judicial panel. How far can these panels go in helping
let me quickly say that the fate the police has faced now is quite sympathetic. And it was indeed Benito Mussolini, the father of fascism, who said on the 29th of April 1945 shortly before he was executed at his Villa Belmont, that, quote, every man dies a death that befits his character. No man can deny fate twice. Unfortunately, the police in Nigeria, I don't want to describe them as Benito Mussolini. The EndSars thing, regrettably enough, was you know, an acronym or a clarion call for oppression. Things like detention without trial, torture without justification, and even release without apology. Shortly before the
Released without apology.
without apology. Shortly before the EndSars protest started, we tried reaching out to serving and retired police officers that there's a need to reform the police. We're talking in generic terms. But like, you know, a typical Nigerian police officer, whether serving or retired, is always very difficult to convince. And by the time you discuss with an intellectually fixated police officer, you know, you will do no more harm than helping to raise men that will serve a very vicious system. To that extent, we were not able to float. And paradoxically enough, not quite 2 weeks, this EndSars thing emanated and people started protesting and all that. You will discover that even in the courts, if you go through the police stations now, the cells are virtually empty. What it tells us is that those people were kept there, even illegally in quotes. And there are some people who are also of the opinion that is a kind of blackmail that, to show the people that, hey, since you don't want us, you have showed vengeance and all that, come and police the system. The street is virtually empty and robbers are increasingly taking over. We must be able to categorize.
Don't they have the rights to, if you call it a blackmail, to do that?
Yes, let me quickly distinguish this EndSars thing. You know, we have the thesis proponent of EndSars. They are, you know, principally educated young millennial people, and they were actually out for altruistic program like reforms. And we also had the hoodlums, you know, what you call the antithesis. So we had the thesis and the antithesis. The thesis was, those educated ones that really took over Lekki Bridge, while the antithesis was the, you could globalize them as those who are not educated, the hoodlums who started burning properties, looting and axing. I don't think it was in the spirit of the EndSars, initiators, even though they said it was a headless or leaderless kind of composition. I visited the Lekki bridge or Lekki stand-up twice to see what was going on. It was well organized, urbane. I'll tell you something, that most of the people there, more than 90%, they came from abroad, they schooled abroad. So they were able to organize themselves and they made their point very known. So there's a need to, not only to reform the police. There's no police station, I'm sorry to say, that can even survive in Nigeria today without, quote, this thing you call bribe or lack of it. And the problem they had was that they took this very duplicate policy to the streets. They started arresting people, who had tattoos on their hands and dreadlocks and all that. That was why the millennial boys revolted against what they learned abroad. The police is your friend, that's what they will tell you. But if you go to the police station, you discover that most people there, they are there because they have not been able to pay in quotes, money.
Not because they committed a crime.
Not necessarily because, I'm not trying to say that everybody there is innocent. What I'm trying to say that the essence of, if you even look at it, if you go to law, the essence of granting a suspect bail is not supposed to be an act of charity. If you commit, even if you commit an offense, we operate the accusatorial form until you are proven guilty. You are supposed to be innocent. So bail is supposed to be given to you, even at the police station stroke EFCC level. But you start to reason that if you go to the police station, the place is brimming with people that are qualified for bail. They are not even granted bail. And if eventually they are granted bail, there is very draconian conditions. They're going to tell you to bring a level 15 officer that has a house in Lekki or VGC or whatever.
Sorry to cut you there. I want to share share the thoughts of my other colleague. Still talking about this EndSars, the police brutality, the judicial panel. Now, when we're trying to reform this, don't you also think we should also look at reforming our laws? because some of them act on the basis of laws, I suppose. So what exactly do you think we should begin to do about our laws so that we have a better policing system?
The critical thing we need to do at this point, yes, reforming our laws is important, is good, but I tell you that even as the laws are today, they are good enough for a good society. If there is goodwill and the political will to implement them, even as they are. There have been series and series of committees that have recommended to the government on police reforms. It is not a new thing. There are even so many organizations who work with police. For example, the Network for Bar, Bench, and the Police, and so many of them. And for each of them, they will be telling you that it is important that we reform the police. And where does that reform start from? Make every policeman to be proud of his duty, his assignment, and that will bring out the patriotic zeal in him. The police duties and police responsibilities are duties that are done by patriots. If you are not patriotic, if you don't love your country, you don't love your society, you cannot be a good policeman. Otherwise, you are only there because you either have no job to do, or you see that as a quick way to make money, or you see that as another to avoid one wrong done to you or your family or the other. But if anybody, when you profile the Nigerian police, you have categories of men in the force. Some are there because they love job and they want a sane society. Some are there because they want to make money, because they feel it is an avenue to make money, rob the people and make money off them. Some are there because of ego. They want to be seen as oppressors. But those are not the essence of policing. And if an average policeman all over the world is a patriot who loves the society and who wants society to be good. But in Nigeria, when such patriotic zeal is dampened by low morale, lack of welfare, lack of attention, lack of good life, lack of good pay, and all that, and you have handed over instruments of oppression in their hands, they will now turn those instruments to their positive ends, to their private personal ends. And that is what has caused what we are seeing. And people have advised government, times to number, to look into the welfare of police and reform the police. Why is it that when you go to military barracks, they are well kept, they are good, there is order. But when you now go to barracks, it is an eyesore such that even miscreants would not want to live in some police barracks. And meanwhile, it is the police that interfaces with the public. It is the police that are supposed to be well taken care of and maintained. But Nigeria has lacked in that responsibility. So going forward, the first thing that needs to be done, apart from touching a few of the laws that need to be touched, is the willpower to ensure that our policing is a patriotic police force. You call it police force, call it police service, call it whatever you call it. Important thing is that let the men and women in the force, in the service, be patriotic. And you cannot drive their patriotism if you don't treat them as human beings. And that is what the EndSars protesters are asking for.
Okay, Barrister, thank you for your thoughts there. You want to add something in
Yeah,
there?
true. You will discover that 2 months before the EndSars thing came up, the Police Service Commission and the IG, they went to court over recruitment. It shows that the hierarchy of the police, I don't think is well attuned to really effectively police Nigeria and Nigerians. You may want to know that before now we used to have a S-Squad. S-Squad was a special department meant to police the police system. If you take bribe or whatever, they mark money, they give it to you, and you are shown the way out. But unfortunately, the police system is so duplicate and ill, like I said, unkept. But there's a question we must ask ourselves. We have budgetary allocations for the rehabilitation of these barracks. Where does it go to?
I think those are critical questions we
Very-
begin to ask.
Yes. Who takes that money? What operates is that once they get to the level of assistant commissioner or commissioner and they start to interact with people at that level, it becomes difficult to take care of the welfare of the people below. We carried out a research very recently and we discovered that in a particular state, they normally give 2,000 liters of petrol to the police. 2,000 liters of petrol is not enough to run the convoy of the commissioner of police.
2,000 for how many days?
For a whole month. So what they resort to is that they go back to the police station, and if you look at it critically, you discover that even traffic policemen, when they are going on their beat, they normally take a combi bus, they rent it, and they normally pay. And they pay from the the quotes they get from people like me and you. The main reason why people became very obtuse and aggressive and started forming groups to really vent their anger was that, to use a very popular word, they would say they've taken enough for the owner to see. Somebody will be wearing dread, or there's an insignia of tattoo on his hand and all that. That becomes profiling. Is an indication that he's a Yahoo boy. So I don't think this type of profiling should be.
Let me just bring
yes.
this other one in, and just as you continue with your thoughts. During one of the press briefing, I think in Lagos, we saw a video earlier where certain characters were put on police uniform, and probably after the policeman put off the uniform, we saw certain characters with the uniform. And one of them was presented to the press, and that he was caught wearing, I think, a DPO uniform, and also what happened was that you could see his face swollen, probably in the process of trying to extract some information. Now, what I want to find out from you as a lawyer is that a recognized process?
Right. Well, that's what we're saying. The police, in order to extract, confection from their victim in quote, or suspect, they normally use brute force. And it is the same brute force or reflection of
that
this
the
brute
people
force.
rose against.
Yes, that they rose. It might interest you that even the attack on the Protestants at the Lekki Garden, was carried out by the army, supposedly. But the vengeance and anger was directed at the police, paradoxically enough. It shows that the hatred, which is not supposed to be. And I'm really disappointed at the killings that accompany that EndSars thing. Because nobody is supposed to die, be you a policeman or a man on the streets. Because every death diminishes me because I'm involved in humanity or mankind. So if you have a right to protest, but your protest should not lead to bloodshed, should not lead to burning, axing, or destruction of government properties. How else can one justify the burning of more than 70 buses at Oyingbo? These same buses are, they're supposed to serve the interest of the common man.
We've been having a conversation in-house that, look, those buses that were burnt, make no mistake, those were not just acts of retaliation.
What do you mean by that?
The places that were burnt and attacked are local government offices, police stations, BRT buses and transportation networks, as well as judicial houses, and prisons attacked as well. Those are key places where some people have interest in. The BRT buses that were burnt, we know what transportation is in Lagos today. We know how far back it might set the Lagos State government before they can begin to throw the buses outside. We know the alternatives that people will look to when they need to get from one place to the other with BRT buses absent. People that went after the courts and documents in the court, we know what they were looking for. People that went after the police stations, we know what they were looking for as well. People that went after the prisons, we know what they were looking for as well. So these were not just...
So what are you insinuating in here now?
That no matter how sporadic it may seem, these attacks had a purpose to them. So we cannot just play it as, people went outside on a rampage. Because
so probably we don't just stand it as hoodlums who went out.
Those attacks on specific, places of authority are not just regular attacks.
Well, it's like, to an extent, a vote of no confidence on some of these institutions, so to say. If
you say vote of no confidence, let's speak specifically the BRT buses. Help the people so well. So what is the vote of no confidence?
Yeah, thank you. Let me quickly still, distinguish between the altruistic motive of the EndSars protesters, as reflected by those who assembled in Lekki Bridge and hoodlums that took over from them. I want to say, without equivocation, that nobody in that group, that enlightened group that had altruistic interest to really reform the police, they actually, it was part of their demand that the police should reform.
We have separated the EndSars protesters from these.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're talking about the hoodlums, those called the hoodlums who attacked.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that the hoodlums, they do not really have any code of conduct. The attack, it was like...
So they don't have any code of conduct.
Code of conduct.
Just help me hold their thoughts there. Now, Barrister Zeko, please, can we share your thoughts in there? Barrister, you still with us? Okay.
Let me just quickly...
Sorry, I didn't get you. I didn't get your question.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Barrister is back. Now, let's share your thoughts on this aspect. Our colleague here just said that some of these attacks on government institutions were well planned. Talk about the BRT buses. And then we wonder that what exactly will have been the evil committed by the owners of these buses, or these buses that people will come on these buses that they usually benefit from. Somebody said it rightly this way, that your senators, your leaders don't enter these buses. These are the buses that still convey you. Why will you go to cause such havoc on such things that you naturally benefit from?
A critical analysis shows that I have to agree with my colleague in the studio who said that those attacks were selective attacks done by some interests. BRT buses, Nigerians, especially Lagosians, are saying that those who have interest in having them grounded are the ones that put them on fire. Those are the people who are now benefiting from the hike in transport fares. Those are the people who are now benefiting, because shortly before that incident, Lagos State government made a pronouncement that they have set a timeline for the phasing out of the yellow buses from the streets of Lagos. And they were looking towards a better Lagos, a more metropolitan Lagos, a more upgraded Lagos. And then this now happened. So if the witch cried in the night and the baby dies in the morning, there is always a suspicion of link or nexus between...
Be a mere coincidence, don't you think so?
So, I don't think it is mere coincidence, because if you now go to the judiciary, there are some people who feel that the judiciary is a seat of discomfort for them. My friend, a lawyer friend of mine told me that the person who must have masterminded the arson at the court complex must have been possibly jailed by the court sometime, and is nursing some deep-seated animosity against the court system. These are anarchists who don't like the society to call them to order.
Thank you
and
very
then they
much
found an
with
opportunity and set the court ablaze.
Thank you, Richard. Now, quickly on top, because of time, let's move to the other issue. Now we have the issue of the proposed $6 trillion plus budget by the federal government.
Well,
what's your take on this?
Well, like the issue, you must be able to draw a line between, budget and what operates. Budgetary allocation, comes in year out, and what we really do with that budget is what matters. And even if you are going to, you are going to borrow 100 billion to finance your budget, and it's not geared towards what fella Anikula Kpokuti will call arbitration of PhD, poverty, hunger, and disease, it goes to no issue. But if this is geared towards, housing, making housing more affordable for the, for the homeless or those who cannot afford it, if it's geared towards improved educational sector, if it's geared towards good health sector and other, things that will succor the stand of the poor man, it is quite welcome. But if it is towards enhancing maybe the packet of our lawmakers in Abuja too, I would say that we have not learned anything. And like the bonbons of old, who refused to learn from history, who, despite the fact that they spent 22 years in exile, they learned nothing and they forgot nothing.
Yeah, they learned nothing and they forgot nothing. Now, my worry also, it's really not about this budget. Somebody said it's about the 38 point something trillion so far debt body. My worry now is, are there plans on how to repay these loans?
Yeah. Look, I'm going to go from this perspective. I think the challenge that we're having is a bit of a mistrust. We do not trust the government, or the people do not trust the government to actually implement the things that they say they want to implement. Let me take you down some statistics now that we do not know, that we probably did not know.
Sorry, on the screen there, we have public debt burden. As of June 2020, it was about 31.01 trillion naira. And we're told that by December 2020, it will increase to 32.51 trillion, and that by December 2021, it will rise to 38.68 trillion. That suggests the reason why they said about 6.7 trillion that Nigeria is going for it now. Let me just read to you what the PDP is saying, that if we're not careful the way this government is careless with borrowing, that they might soon go to a country like Togo to ask for loan.
I was going to address this.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
The PDP are playing to the gallery.
Okay.
The PDP, during their time in government, we know also took loans. It might not have been to this extent, but for us to grow as a nation, we have to be realistic with ourselves. We are going to have to borrow. Yeah. Every nation that developed to the state that they are today had to go for some financial aid.
You have to borrow, but you have to borrow wisely and spend wisely.
But this is, and I think I should give out some information. Now, this loan was not taken actually this year. This is a loan that was taken in 2018 by Professor Yemi Oshibajo. And this one has been 2 years in the making. It's only just coming into a financial reality now.
Okay.
If we are going to use...
Sorry, let me quickly go to him, to Barrister Ezeaku. Now, let me share your thoughts on this debt burden so far. What exactly would you have to say about this?
Speaking strictly as a development economist, I can tell you for sure that the government is not treading on the path of futuristic planning. The borrowings are not necessary because we have alternatives. It beats me each time our people say for every country to develop, you must borrow. In 2006, 2007, we exited our foreign debt trap of about 32 billion US dollars. And then we had to pay about 12 billion US dollars to be forgiven to the tune of 18 billion US dollars, and we had to start from a clean slate because these things have implications in our international trade with our other partners and then with the rest of the world. A borrowing country is a begging country, and because each fund you borrow is tied to the apron spring of the lender. The lender dictates the pace, not only in terms of what the funds will be utilized, but also in terms of where you spend it. If eventually you are tied to China, for example, and you have to end up with their own personnel, with their own machinery, with their own technology, and with everything, at the end of the day, what is your net benefit? And like my friend in the studio said, my other friend said, what is the essence of the borrowing? Is it to oil our recurrent expenses, or to ensure that a capital project that is self-financing, that will reflect the economy
Thank you, Barrister.
These are the questions.
Thank you, Barrister Fred Ezeaku, for sharing your thoughts with us on Strictly Politics today. Barrister Fred Ezeaku, a legal practitioner, thank you so much. And just finally, just less than 1 minute, what alternatives do we have if we don't borrow?
Well, like he just said, we should try and emphasize capital projects in our borrowing aspect, and the middle class should be encouraged, and people in the private sector, should be given a lot of incentives to ensure that things that are going to deride or harm the common man is quickly reduced.
Right.
Like the seagull property, they still give out loans to very poor people.
Time not on our side today. Barrister Abubakar Yusufu, former student union president, University of Benin. Thank you so much for being with us on Strictly Politics. And just from you, finally, just one word.
I'm going to have to disagree with the learned colleagues
you
who are
disagree.
with us. And here's the reason why. As I said before, even Dangote, as big as Dangote is, still borrows to go on any investment.
Okay, and that is all we can take today. Wilson Owane, my colleague here in the studio, thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us. And that is all we can take on today's edition of Strictly Politics. I remain yours sincerely, Eshomomo Imodu. Let's make it another appointment next week, same time on the same platform. Bye for now.